A frostbitten dog stands on a moonlit ridge, icicles hanging like prison bars from his whiskers, while a musher clutches a vial that will decide a town's fate. You might assume history is a parade of generals and politicians, but sometimes the shape of the past was decided by paws, feathers, hooves, and beaks shoving through mud and flame. This video will drag you through 15 times animals barged into human drama and altered the course of events. Sometimes noble, sometimes tragic, always unforgettable. We'll meet sled dogs who outran death, pigeons that carried last-ditch messages through shellfire, a bear who enlisted as a private, and a dog whose loyalty became a nation's lament. Expect gore, grit, and the weird little decisions that become legendary. If you like your history with fur and gallows humor, buckle up. These are 15 heroic animals that changed history forever. Number 1. Balto, the sled dog who became the poster child for the 1925 Serum run to Nome. Picture a dog splattered with crusted snow and bloodshot eyes, hauling through a whiteout while diphtheria tore through a town of starving kids. It's like an Arctic horror movie where the hero has 4 legs. People remember statues and triumphant headlines, but the real miracle was the relay. Dozens of mushers and teams, every stretch a gamble with frostbite and death. Balto's last leg brought the serum into Nome, but he was a symbol stitched from many sacrifices and a media machine craving a single face. His fame pushed cold-weather medicine and encouraged organized dog sled relay systems that saved lives thereafter. Balto's story is equal parts endurance, PR, and the reminder that sometimes a single image rewires public memory. Number 2, Togo, the dog who actually ran the longest, nastiest stretch of the same serum run, but got second billing. Imagine a dog leading a team across an ice-littered channel, while sea spray freezes into a shell of glass on whiskers. That was Togo's daily commute. He led Leonhard Seppala across the most dangerous leg, navigating broken ice and blinding storms to save lives. And yet the newspapers loved Balto's curtain call more. Togo's legacy rewired how we think about leadership and credit. The visible finish gets applause, but the brutal mid-game grind is where history is made. Today mushers still tell Togo stories like sermons about endurance and stubborn intelligence, and sled dog breeding owes a lot to his bloodline. His tale is a reminder that true heroism often happens out of frame. Number 3, Cher, a pigeon that turned blind luck and training into a life-saving message amid trench hell. Picture mud, rats, mustard gas stinging the eyes, and then a tiny bird flapping alone against artillery thunder. Apparently peaceful heroes come feathered. During the Battle of the Argonne, a lost battalion's coordinates were trapped behind enemy lines, and Cher, despite being shot and blinded in one eye, managed to carry the plea for help across enemy fire. That message rerouted reinforcements and saved nearly 200 soldiers. It's a grotesque, poetic twist. A fragile pigeon became a military courier when radios failed and men were stuck in a meat grinder. Cher earned a wound-studded medal and a place in museums, proving that the war wasn't just brass and bullets, but also wing beats and guts. Number 4, G.I. Joe, another pigeon who literally rewrote orders and saved lives during WWII in Italy. Imagine soldiers trapped in a shell-splintered village, radios dead, morale drowning in smoke. The conventional tech failed, so commanders turned to an unlikely wartime app. Pigeons. G.I. Joe delivered a crucial message that stopped friendly forces from shelling an Allied position and redirected artillery, preventing massacre and allowing a counteraction. Awarded the Dickin Medal, this pigeon wasn't just ornamental. He prevented friendly fire on a memorable scale. The story exposes the brutal improvisation of war and how, when high-tech fails, the low-tech animal world becomes the last mile. It's a reminder that sometimes the difference between a catastrophe and a saved town is the wing beat of a bird. Number 5. Sergeant Stubby, the stray-turned-decorated WWII dog who shadowed soldiers through the filth and fear of trenches. Stubby learned to alert troops to incoming gas attacks, locate wounded soldiers by sound, and even capture a German spy by biting his rear, which is hilariously heroic and ridiculous simultaneously. He got promoted to sergeant by his regiment, fought in multiple engagements, and returned to the U.S. a piece of propaganda and a beloved living symbol. Stubby's presence boosted morale and humanized a brutal industrial conflict, proving that animals could be therapeutic combatants and PR gold. His medals and parades taught a generation that heroism doesn't always need orders, just courage and a dog's blunt insistence. It's a story equal parts warm and grotesque because the trenches are never tidy. Number 6. Smoky, a 4-pound Yorkshire Terrier who pulled telephone lines through half-inch pipes, cheered up amputees, and allegedly saved lives by distracting a sniper. Found stranded in a foxhole in New Guinea, Smoky became a soldier's mascot and performed tasks that would make an engineer weep with gratitude. Her greatest practical feat was threading a wire through a 70-foot pipe under a runway, restoring communications, and saving the lives of troops relying on air support. Picture a tiny dog squeezing through dark metal like a 4-legged plumber. After the war, she helped demonstrate that animals could aid recovery for wounded soldiers, influencing therapy animal ideas later. Smoky's tiny paws trod a path from jungle hardship to rehabilitation wards, proving that heroism doesn't scale with size, but with timing and stubbornness. Number 7. Laika, the Soviet space dog who became a star and a grim lesson in ethics. Laika was the first animal to orbit Earth. A small mixed-breed dog shoved into a tiny tin can where it was cold, noisy, and ultimately a one-way ticket. The mission proved that living creatures could survive launch and weightlessness long enough to send back data, which accelerated human spaceflight planning. But the squeamish part is that return wasn't part of the plan. Laika died in orbit, likely from overheating and stress, turning a scientific milestone into a moral stain. Her sacrifice forced public debates about animal testing, space ethics, and the human appetite for symbols. Laika changed history by pushing technology forward, and by forcing the world to reckon with what we're willing to sacrifice for glory. Number 8. Wojtek, the Syrian brown bear who enlisted with the Polish II Corps and earned a rank, a cigarette habit, and unexpected camaraderie. Rescued as a cub, Wojtek grew into a 400-pound soldier who loved beer, rooted crates of ammunition with surprising dexterity, and became an unofficial mascot on the Italian front. During the Battle of Monte Cassino, he reportedly helped move artillery shells, an image that's half believable and wholly mythic. It's wartime lore dressed in fur. His presence humanized a displaced army and provided a morale anchor for traumatized soldiers uprooted by war's chaos. After the conflict, Wojtek lived out his days in Scotland, fading into public memory but leaving a unique symbol. A bear who blurred lines between tool, comrade, and national myth. He makes you rethink categories of soul. Number 9. Hachiko, the dog who waited at Shibuya Station for his owner every day for nearly a decade after the man's death, turning loyalty into cultural myth. Visualize a rain-slick platform at dusk, where a wet, unwavering dog becomes a fixture, rubbing against commuters who offer spare rice and teary attention. People assumed such loyalty was a quaint story, but what emerged was a phenomenon. Hachiko inspired books, films, and a statue at Shibuya that became a national touchstone about devotion and the pain of wartime separation. His ritualized waiting helped shape Japan's modern narrative about loyalty and remembrance after industrial upheaval. Hachiko's tale shows how a simple animal habit can be elevated into moral instruction and tourism. A furry sermon about faithfulness that still brings strangers to a concrete bench every year. Number 10. Simon, the ship's cat who kept vermin and despair at bay aboard HMS Amethyst during a brutal Yangtze River incident. Ships are wet, cramped, and rat-infested, perfect breeding grounds for disease and low morale, and Simon's hunting stopped rats from devouring scarce rations and spread of filth. Beyond pest control, he comforted sailors shell-shocked from bombardment and earned a Dickin Medal for his services after being injured in action. His presence shows that animals in war often performed practical hygiene roles and psychological triage simultaneously. When the ship limped home, Simon's story read like a Victorian fable turned maritime headline, a small creature that made survival slightly more possible. He proves that sometimes an animal's job is tiny but crucial, like a single candle in a long, wet night. Number 11. Owney, the stray-turned-postal mascot who rode the railway mail service and became a symbol of America's communication network. He hitched rides on mailbags, traveled thousands of miles, and collected tags from post offices like punk rock bling, turning him into a living scrapbook of routes and places. Postal workers loved him because he was good luck, meaning fewer lost bags, fewer snarls, and maybe some warm laughs during endless freight runs. The post office turned Owney into a promotional star, mounting a case with his tags in the Smithsonian after he died, cementing the idea that animals can become institutional mascots that personify slow but steady civic systems. Owney's story connects the mundane logistics of mail with sentimentality, proving that a dog on a railcar can help make a national service feel human. Number 12. Marengo, Napoleon's famous gray Arabian stallion, who carried the emperor across Europe's battlefields and became a symbol of imperial ambition. Horses were the tanks and SUVs of their day, and Marengo carried Napoleon in decisive charges and escapes, including the retreat at Waterloo, where he reportedly staggered off with his rider intact. The sheer mobility of cavalry altered campaign logistics, scouting, and morale, and a reliable mount could make the difference between capture and command continuity. Marengo's endurance and presence contributed to the mythology of Napoleon as a hands-on battlefield leader, not an office-bound strategist. After the wars, Marengo's skeleton was preserved and displayed, turning horse anatomy into propaganda. Even in death, his bones promoted the legend. This horse shows how animal labor underpinned empires and how symbolism grows from practical service. Number 13. Comanche, the horse that outlived the slaughter of the 7th Cavalry at Little Bighorn and became a living monument to a disastrous day. After Custer's defeat, the army preserved Comanche as proof that the unit had been wiped out, a survivor emblem pressed into service to contain national shock and shame. The horse's stoic endurance was used to sanitize the narrative. Focus on an animal that made it through rather than the grotesque scale of human loss. Comanche toured with veterans and became a curiosity in national memory, illustrating how societies sometimes turn the living into symbols to avoid grappling with complex culpability. His preserved skin and mounted display later raised uncomfortable questions about how we memorialize defeat and who gets to tell the story. Comanche's afterlife shows that animals can be conscripted into civic amnesia as easily as they were conscripted into war. Number 14. Rin Tin Tin, the rescued German shepherd who became Hollywood's first canine megastar and practically saved Warner Bros. From bankruptcy. Found in the rubble of WWI by an American soldier, Rin Tin Tin was trained into a stunt dog who performed impossible feats on camera, pulled audiences into theaters, and carried box office receipts for a struggling studio. His films made people cry, cheer, and buy tickets, altering the economics of cinema and showing studios that animals could be reliable, bankable stars. Beyond money, he shaped cultural portrayals of dogs as noble companions, inspiring generations of dog films and merchandising. Rin Tin Tin's career changed entertainment by proving that animal charisma sells drama and shapes industry risk-taking, turning a rescue dog into a cinematic brand that influenced global pop culture. Number 15. The millions of unnamed animals whose quiet labor changed everyday history without fanfare, from bomb-detecting dogs and guide animals to therapy cats in hospital wards and search and rescue horses. These creatures rarely get statues, but they shape social systems, rescue operations, and personal recoveries. They're the plumbing of human compassion. Think about how many blind people gained independence, how many bombs were found before they screamed, how many grieving families were comforted by a purring body. Those ripples matter. Their work influenced policies on animal training, veteran care programs, and urban search protocols, nudging institutions toward integrating animals into public services. Celebrating the famous is fun, but the unnamed majority rewires civil life quietly and insistently. So when history mentions a tactic or therapy, remember there's usually a furry, feathered, or hoofed technician behind it. In these 15 stories, we've sprinted through ice, clung to scorched warships, orbited the planet, marched under cannon smoke, and waited faithfully at rainy platforms. And animals were the inconvenient, messy heroes at the center of it all. They changed tactics, saved lives, comforted the wounded, carried messages when radios died, and sometimes were sacrificed for human ambition. Glory and grief often arrive together. The takeaway isn't that animals are tools, nor that they're mythic saints, but that human history is braided with non-human agency in ways we frequently ignore. Their actions forced technological advances, shifted public sentiment, and created symbols that still shape policy and culture today. If these animals made you laugh, gag, or want to hug your pet, then they did their job of rewiring empathy. If this scratched an itch, subscribe for more strange history,